Greetings all and sundry, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm Chris Thompson, and this is the Brain Software Podcast episode 218, originating in Toronto, Canada. And in today's episode, NLP and hypnosis trainer Mike Mandel and I talk all about perception. So stay tuned.
Disclaimer. In this super glanative podcast episode, it's crucial for you to realize that Mike Mandel Hypnosis is not in any way connected with Brennan Hall or Elmsley Hall, St. Michael's College, University of Toronto. We don't do trainings there, we don't rent space there, nor do we take photographs there, nor even selfies. And since we never go there, we don't open officially closed curtains, especially when noted movies are being recorded in the courtyard just outside the window of Charbonnel Lounge. Lucci.
Hey, Bagpipe. Happy New Year, dude. We're only one day away from New Year's Eve. I'm going to miss it completely because it's the kind of event that Niels Bohr used to love. Let's put on some Jefferson Airplane and just ask the burning question outright. Whatever happened to the quantum entanglement that deprived us all of that old tranquility that was the spirit of the 60s, Scrotus?
We are not witches! You haven't said that in a while. So welcome to the public sidewalk that's right outside Elmsley Hall, St. Michael's College, University of Toronto. Scare ya? A man who's obsessed with not ever going to Charbonnel Lounge. A man who's not going to apply for the bursar's position at St. Michael's College. And the Keith Richards of hypnosis, everybody! Mike Van Effing Dell!
Yes, this is fantastic. It's almost New Year's Eve, buddy.
We're just in a great mood.
Tomorrow night's New Year's Eve when this goes live.
Yes, well, we're recording this in earlier December,
yes.
but it's like the 30th,
I know.
which is actually my sister's birthday, by the way, which is really cool.
That's
So
very nice.
happy birthday.
Which
All
one,
right.
Jannie?
Natalie.
I thought it was Jannie.
Yeah, it's
Jannie.
No. My sister Jannie, who lives in Poland, and my sister Natalie, who lives in Virginia Beach. Anyway, it's her birthday.
Now, are you saying Jenny or Jannie?
Jenny.
With an E.
Yeah.
Okay, because the Jannies go back to Newfoundland. It was the Mummers Parades, and it's a different thing altogether.
Oh, man.
Okay, so let's do our usual banter. What promotion do we have?
Well, we have absolutely nothing to promote right now because by the time this goes live on December 30th, you guys should be focusing on partying tomorrow night.
Yeah, man.
And enjoying yourselves.
Enjoying off.
And, well, I suppose if there's any space left, you probably want to go and check out Foundations Live. We started on January 10th. It's an 8-week training online on Zoom where you show up 2 hours a week for 8 weeks. And basically, it's a small group. You practice your hypnosis skills with us in breakout rooms and stuff. We give you immediate feedback. We teach you foundational principles live. It's freaking awesome. People love it.
It is.
I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes, but it's basically MikeMandelHypnosis.com/foundations-live.
Beautiful.
You go there, you can check it out. If there's still space, my guess is it'll probably be full. But we're going to do another cohort. Like these 8-week cohorts, we've been having a ton of fun. It was actually Timothy's idea. Our head of coaching, Timothy September, freaking awesome dude.
He is.
And it was pretty much his plan. We evolved it over some time together, and it's been really fun. He's running the show with it. And the January cohort that we're running on the 10th, we'll run for 8 weeks. Then I believe we decided we're going to do, we haven't even publicly said this yet, but we're going to do another one in May and June, and then we'll probably do another one sometime in the late summer, early fall, whatever. Anyway, there you go.
Well, yes, and in May, of course, we have the next Architecture of Hypnosis in Toronto.
You'll want to sign up for that.
We got sign-ups already. We got one master student already signed up, and it's going to be a blast again at our brand new location.
That'll be a sold-out class, so don't wait too long on the Architecture of Hypnosis. Your basic options are the online academy, which is currently $47 a month, very reasonable. The Foundations Live, which is a live experience with us, or coming to Toronto and doing the Architecture of Hypnosis. So you have some choices. And failing that, and even if you do all that, do plan to attend Hypnothoughts Live, which happens, I believe, in late July in Las Vegas at the Sahara.
Oh, it's going to be
Scott
phenomenal.
and Stephanie moved it. Anyway, there you go. Hypnothoughts Live, not our conference. We make no money to talk about it, but
We're
love
promoting it because
They're
it's
awesome.
the best hypnosis convention in the frickin'
See,
world.
because it's not all about money.
It's not all about you either,
We
Chris.
don't care. All right, there we go.
All about me.
Let's
So let's
talk
start
about
enjoying off with this. The think tank words of the day.
This is already making me laugh. It's the third one, but go ahead.
What's so funny about
I'll tell you.
Okay, the first word. These are all randomly generated from Savo Bukacek's think tank, which I bought at the Ontario Science Centre years ago. And the first one is SNARE.
SNARE. Okay, so I'm thinking of a snare.
No, we're going to read them all.
Oh, you're going to go. Okay,
the second
so
one
snare
is biceps, not
biceps,
but biceps,
biceps,
which is correct. And the third one is communal, not communist. Communal.
Okay, well, let's be very. All right, so. You want to start with snare? It makes me think of a snare drum.
Snare drum. And it makes me think of a fowler's snare, as in Psalm 91, the snare of the fowler. A fowler was somebody who catches birds. When I was a kid, we had a rather abortive attempt to catch pigeons and birds in our yard, not because we wanted to hurt them. We just wanted to have birds.
Yes. Yeah, we wanted to have birds.
We set up a shoebox with a stick holding it open, like it's leaning on a stick, and then you put a string and you put breadcrumbs leading in, and when a pigeon goes in, you pull the thing and it's caught in a shoebox, and then you release it.
I accidentally caught a raccoon by making a box like that. We were intending to catch field mice. I took a mouse trap.
To cook and eat, yeah.
You know the normal mouse trap that will kill the mouse? I built a cage with chicken wire and stuff. I put a real mouse trap in it, but I used a nail bent to stop the kill mechanism so that it would simply pull a string with a pencil attached to it and the door would slam shut, which was spring-loaded.
Freaking engineer, you can tell.
I accidentally caught a raccoon.
Brilliant, man. Now, you know, they say that whoever can invent a better mousetrap would be a multi-gajillionaire. I have invented the better mousetrap. It has only 2 parts. And you think about that. There's no spring.
I want to hear this.
It's just a piece of wood.
Yeah.
The standard base. And at one end is a Gillette Blue Blade, razor blade stuck in. And that's it. And the mouse climbs on, leans over the blade and goes, "Where's the cheese?"
Oh, so it doesn't do anything.
No, it cuts his own throat looking for the cheese.
Cheese,
I'm brilliant.
Horrible.
No, not cheese.
Cheese.
Okay, so snare. Snare.
So
what about
horrible.
biceps?
Biceps.
Well, let's see. You're going to flex.
Yeah, there we go. So we got biceps. Obviously, that only has one meaning to me. Biceps. I can't think of another application of that word. It's the muscles.
Okay,
on
so
your
now
arms.
use it as a stepping stone. To avoid the snare of poor technique, you can build up your hypnotic muscles.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with biceps, and I'm going to expand out a bit and say, a lot of times when people want to get muscular, they think, oh, I'll just do dumbbell curls or barbell curls. I want to work on my biceps.
Yeah.
There are no natural movements that only use the bicep.
Oh, totally.
So think about, from a hypnosis and communication standpoint, the bicep is one thing of an entire chain of muscles that must work together, right? So if you do a chin-up, for example, you think, that's a bicep work. No, it's actually, you're working your lats, your trapezius.
For sure, man. If I put something on the top shelf, something heavy in our kitchen, I don't lift it and do a bicep curl. That's why when I do an exercise, I'll use something like a medicine ball from the ground and full
100%.
press overhead, multiple reps. So I'm working the whole connective linkage.
Chain. So if you're thinking, if you want to use this as a metaphor to hypnosis or NLP or whatever, your life, like think of the whole package, not the one minute little thing.
Yeah,
unless you're trying to solve one weak link. If you need to solve one weak link,
that's different.
Then you go, oh, my biceps are weak. Okay, I'll work on those specifically. That's fine.
Well, the funny thing is, if you blow out your biceps from doing curls with like a heavy bar,
you still got your triceps.
What do they do? The sports medicine clinic, they get you doing freaking curls to fix it.
Yeah, that's
it's like, you get dental floss stuck between your teeth. What does the dentist do? He uses dental floss to get it out.
That's hilarious.
Okay, why did the third one, communal, make you laugh?
Okay, because communal makes me think of like shared, obviously the word. But here's the thing. When I was growing up in Dollard des Ormeaux, outside of Montreal, I went to a school called West Park Public, can't say that.
Yeah.
West Park Public School.
With all the West Park
I'm sure it still exists. I don't know. Anyway, it was an English school in a largely French area where I grew up. But the West Island was a more English area, but I didn't speak French, so I had to go to obviously an English public school. West Park was our school. The bathrooms had communal urinals.
What?
And communal sinks.
Okay, sinks I can understand. Communal urinals?
They weren't individual urinals. It was like a big, like a feeding trough, except the reverse
like
of
Maple
feeding.
Leaf Gardens used to have that too.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
What was the name of the school?
West Park.
Oh, it sounds more like Communist Martyrs High School.
So, nowadays there's determined spacing between you and your neighbor in the urinal.
You
don't want someone walking right up to you and being like,
Remember I told you when I was at the Pantages Theater and there was at the urinal and there was a little small wall behind me and a guy went to leave and he walked between me and the urinal. I mean, I'm not kidding.
And you're like, whoa, this stuff really comes out.
That's right. Okay, so
all right, so communal. I think about. It's sort of a weird one, but I think about sharing and growing together and learning together and communities.
Yeah,
communities.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Look at this. Avoid the snare of reading scripts and
focusing only on the
biceps.
biceps.
Avoid the snare of focusing just on one thing and develop uniformly all your hypnotic skills and utilize them in a communal urinal.
All right. That took us way too long, but it was ridiculously fun.
Okay, so let's start. Here's our talking points. We're talking about perception. Point number one, perception is never reality. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I've done some ontological studies
because they often say perception is reality. That's the reality you believe to be true when you hold the perception, but it doesn't make it the actual reality.
Right. Well, it's never the reality because we're always viewing everything through a set of transforms in our brains. Right? So if I'm looking at something, visual purple in my eye is activated by the photons of light and it's sending a signal through, into the occiput of my brain, but I'm not actually seeing the object. I'm seeing an internal representation in my brain that's stereoscopic and upside down. And it's inverted.
Down.
And so we perceive it as out there, which is rather interesting. And optical illusions are a case in point. All of these things are our perception. But
so let's connect that metaphor to useful real life.
Transforms and subjective reality. Years ago, many years ago in the 90s, I was in Wasaga Beach with 3 guys I knew pretty well. One of them, and the one was Kenny Upton. And we were in. The other guy had he had a Mercedes convertible, and we're driving through, and Jagged Little Pill had just come out. And I liked the album.
Morissette's album.
So I put it on.
Yeah.
And the one guy was appalled. He said, "You can't have this on right now with 4 guys in the car."
Why?
And I said, "Why?" And he said, "It's sending the wrong impression. It's giving the wrong perception." And he was
so he had
unable to explain
the perception that it was sending the wrong perception, which is really weirdly meta. Do we have the perception that his perception was wrong about the perception?
I know, it's nuts. Now,
but good point, right?
You know that George Miller spoke of what is conscious and unconscious with his magic number 7 ± 2 about 1959 or something. Did you know 55. His middle name was Armitage?
No, I did not know.
I just George
Armitage Miller. The magic number 7 ± 2, representing the number of things that you can consciously hold in your awareness at any one point in time.
Conscious awareness,
like you're probably not aware of the feeling in your feet right now, but you can be aware of the sound of my voice and the fact that you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast.
And you, Chris, may not be aware of that deep aching in your spine until now. Scare you? Cancel that suggestion.
But and we can force people to become aware of things
just by
talking about things like what school I went to back in Montreal.
Communist martyrs.
Well, immediately people are thinking, oh yeah, what school did I go to back in grade school? They'll think about those things simply because we said things. Which
you've directed their focus, you've directed their attention and brought things into conscious awareness. We're activating the brain. All language is manipulation. He just made me say that by saying all language is manipulation. Now, the key point here is what we perceive cannot be reality, but is at best a fragment of reality.
I think that's a good point.
Thanks,
because
man.
Obviously, reality is wide and encompassing much more than what we're thinking about at the time.
And here's the problem. People, so what? This isn't very interesting. Actually, it is. Because we act as though our perceptions are reality. We all do it. And when I say we all do it, I mean you all do it.
That's a really good point, because if you think about every argument you have with somebody, every problem that you think is unsolvable in that moment, these are all based on perception.
Oh, for sure, man.
Like, well, she thinks that I said that. Like, all of this crap.
For sure, man. Like complex equivalence. The NLP aspect of complex equivalence. This means this. And when I was with my martial arts master years ago, we were at the CN Tower for supper at the top of Toronto restaurant, which is great. And I was sitting like this, and he said, "Well, I can tell from your body language, the way you got your arms folded, you're close to the conversation and the topic." I said, "Nonsensical." I said, "Here's the reality." I said, "I've got tight trapezium here. Muscles. When I put my arms like this, it stretches them out
and
gradually, and
better.
I feel more comfortable with the neck problems I have. We've got to be very, very careful that we do not identify as our perceptions as hypnotists, as therapists, as human beings, as reality, because usually they're wrong or incomplete at best.
Yeah, I think that's
What about mind reading?
Well, yeah, mind reading is just such a common thing. You know, when people, you think that XYZ, you mean that XYZ, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, you run into this all the time. I remember years ago, we're traveling through Eastern Canada with our truck. I was doing the space show. Remember, we turned the stage of this into a spaceship, and I do the hypnosis show. And one of our roadies, Busy, we're in the truck, and someone mentioned something about Ronald Reagan, who was president at the time. Now, no one's apolitical, but I'm pretty damn close to being apolitical. I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in politicians. And so somebody mentioned Ronald Reagan, and Busy's immediate response was, listen to this line, Ronald Reagan, oh, well, he just wants to blow up the whole world.
Yeah. Do you think that's a mind-reading statement? Maybe.
Like, where do people come up with this stuff?
It's also hyperbole.
But here's what he based it on. There was a made-for-TV movie, and there was an attack on the U.S., and the U.S. out of Montana, whatever, all the missile silos did their strategic missile response, strategic nuclear weapons hit Russia, and Russia wins the war. And you hear a voice that sounds like Ronald Reagan, and he said, you know, he wants the American people to know we did not surrender at any time. And Busy said, well, he said we didn't surrender, and that made me mad. I said, it wasn't him. It was a movie.
Yeah.
He said,
you can
well,
talk into that microphone.
He said, well, that's what he would have said.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's what he would have said.
Perception, nonsensical perception.
That's another mind-reading thing, right? And you made me just realize, me see you influence me.
Yeah.
There are two types of mind reading. There is undeclared mind reading, and there's outright declared mind reading.
Enlighten us, Chris. This is interesting.
Yeah, I just thought of it now that I could be mind reading all the time, but not saying anything about it, just internally thinking it. So it's I have not declared it out loud. Maybe that's what I really should have said. Undeclared, uncommunicated. Communicated internally only.
Internally, but
so
in the undeclared, unconscious substrata that we're dealing with here. Listen how cleverly we speak.
I could be, let's say you're doing one of those dickish things where I'm talking and you go, oh yeah, Chris is talking too long, and I'm mind reading by that, right? Yeah, and you start doing that kind of stuff, right? And I could mind read and go, oh, Mike thinks I'm talking too much.
Well, just too slowly.
He hasn't said it. I'm pretty good at calibrating this stuff, so I'm probably going to be right in those instances.
You're very good calibrator.
Often I am talking too much, but it's not declared, right? I haven't said it out loud. Oh, I didn't ask you. Hey, do you think I'm talking too much? I just assume. Or similarly, you know, if somebody does this to you and they've got a certain look on their face, you can think they're mad at me. Right. And you might be right. But if you didn't ask, how do you know? It might still
be in the undeclared unconscious substrata. I'm going to use that phrase a lot. I came up with that just now.
Nice.
The undeclared unconscious substrata.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that if your kid opens the fridge, you should say, Johnny, are you hungry? You could probably make a general assumption a lot of the time.
Generally,
that makes sense.
But human beings hallucinate. We hallucinate all the time. And that's one of the things I love that Robbins, when he applied NLP, when he'd say, well, my hallucination is...
Yes, he would say that.
Let me give you an example from my stepmother.
You're disclosing that you're
My stepmother's long since passed away. But you know my hair, Chris? I had the Jimmy Page hair. I mean, huge ringlets down my back and long frickin' hair. It looked like a rock star and it was awesome. Now, having said that, that's what I look like. And I had 3 earrings at the time. I never re-pierced the right one. I just kept the 2 on the left.
You'd be very likely to wear AC/DC T-shirts or stuff like that.
Yeah, and what did my stepmother get me for Christmas, Chris? She got me a beige golf shirt. Now, I don't play golf. I freaking hate beige.
I've never seen you in beige.
And I was like, I said, why did you get me this? She said, well, it's so hard to find something conservative for you. I said, Mom, my hair's halfway down my back.
Conservative.
I look like Keith Richards without some of the constraints there. Anyway, she hallucinated that. Now, remember the bully at the mall with the watch?
Oh,
he hallucinated that I'd be a pushover and would back down. He was completely wrong.
Do you want to retell that story very quickly?
My wife bought me a Rolex, and he said it was 3/4 size because I don't have big hands. And he said, oh, it's a lady's watch. And I said, no, it's not. He said, it's a fake. I said, no, it's been to Rolex and had cleaning. I think they'd know. No, it looks stupid. Your wife made a mistake. And I just got furious with him and anyway called him on it. And he just backed right down. And he had no idea that I would do that. He just thought I was some older guy. And
you put him into a bind where he all of a sudden had
in trouble. Yeah.
Had to make good good on his dickish comments,
Right.
or back the hell off.
Yeah, it's walk the walk,
Yeah.
walk the talk. Now, what about you as the next scammer? This is very
Chris
interesting.
as the next scammer.
Humans are really good at hallucinating.
What do you mean?
I had been scammed by a couple of agents.
yes.
I've been
Back
scammed
in
by a
your history.
business partner
Yes.
because I'm a nice guy. Now, I've developed some more savvy skills. The controller ego state who keeps track of a lot of things, and he's doing a superb job, I might add.
Now I know what you're talking
My
about.
wife,
Yeah.
because I'd been burned so many times, when Chris wanted to work with me, this guy had this, 8-figure freaking job in downtown. Well, if you count the pennies, in downtown Toronto. And she thought, why does he want to work with you? There's something wrong here. How do you know he can trust this guy? But brilliantly, he waited years. He kept working with me over the years. And now Heather just loves him and thinks he's like the greatest guy on earth next to me.
we
of
have
course.
built a pretty awesome.
But she perceived him because
life.
of her perception of the dicks and the bastards who had scammed me financially in the past, just figured I was an easy mark. And that therefore Chris must be a scammer, because why would he want to work with me when he's got all his life all together, which was true, that he had his life together. But he wanted to work with me because he wanted to do this, what we're doing instead of
I
that.
had no idea that, the whole podcast idea that came about before we even started teaching the classes together,
Right.
because you were still working with NLP Canada. And I thought, well, we should do a podcast on hypnosis and personal development, because no one's really got a good one, or at least at that time, there was nothing specifically in hypnosis. And we've really turned it into a mix. We do talk about hypnosis here.
Sometimes.
But actually not all that much.
No,
but
not
the
really.
original idea was, let's do one just on hypnosis. I'll ask you cool questions and you'll just talk, and it'll be
Just
awesome,
try.
and it'll help fill your classes.
Yeah.
Then we're doing them together.
Yeah.
Now we got the MMHA and all these other amazing things. But I remember when Heather said, why do you want to do this? The dinner that we had at the keg, when I
Right.
pitched the idea.
Yeah, you took
And
us
she
out
goes,
for dinner.
Well,
Yeah.
why do you want to do that? Because the initial view was, well, we're not going to make a whole lot of money at this at all, but I want to prove that I can do this.
Yeah, and you create
because
this whole new
then
business.
I can get the heck out of the corporate world and not have my job as a stock analyst anymore, and not leave the house before my kids are awake and get home after they're asleep many nights.
Right.
And you know what? That was a freaking great decision. So in 2011, I got the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah, you did,
and
man.
we went
It
full
was the
time to do
best.
this.
Then we became best friends, and that's the best part. And now we hang out with him and his wife.
It's
and we
almost
do stuff
12 years
together.
ago, man.
Heather told me to tell you again today. She said, tell Chris how grateful I am and how brilliant he is. She did say that before I left.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, let's look at this. Strong beliefs. When any of us hold strong beliefs, we create, I'm saying beliefs. I don't know. why I'm doing that.
Beliefs.
We create reality tunnels. And reality tunnels filter out
yeah.
that which does not agree with our model of the world.
So when you mind read and then you create a belief out of that, and
or
then
not
you
even
go,
mind reading, just let's say we have
Anything. Yeah, any
an
perception.
external perception that doesn't even have to be another person.
something
right?
is there, you perceive it in a certain way, you form a belief based upon your perception, and then you go out into the world, but you're actually in this tunnel that is, everything is based on the reality you think is true.
Yes, that's right. And we filter out things that do not fit with it.
Yes.
In fact, if I believe that all Brits have Austin Powers teeth, well, that's actually true. Mine are just under veneers here. If I believe all British people have tremendous senses of humor, and which I do believe, when a Brit says something, I laugh really, ha ha, it's brilliant. Whereas if, an American or, a guy from Spain said the same thing, I think, it's mildly amusing. But my reality tunnel says, it's got to be hilarious because he's a Brit. I went to England in the 80s, went into a pub, asked if they had real ale, which is still sort of live, and it comes right out of the wood. They pump it up. And I said, do you have any real ale, barkeep? And he looks, he goes, real ale. Not today, sir. Or any other day for that matter. Just fantastic.
That's
but
great.
We're filtering all the time. I said, the confirmation bias. Even when we Google information, we Google things that confirm what we believe. So if I believe that, Bill Gates is a dick, I'm going to Google, is Bill Gates a dick? And then all the people, a million people say, Bill Gates is a dick. And I go, see?
Yeah. Oh, like here. Let's use this as a prop so we're not using the actual word. But let's say that you hold a certain belief about certain medical products, okay? You could Google, I'm going to call it a red flag instead of the actual
you Google
thing.
a red flag.
Why are red flags dangerous? Give me all the reasons red flags are dangerous.
Yeah.
And conversely, why are red flags safe and effective? Either one you could Google, and you are now going in with confirmation bias rather than a neutral phrase like data on red flag safety, data on red flag efficacy. These are all more neutral, right? Or analysis, reports on, studies on, clinical trials on, not painted with your view of confirmation bias.
Correct. And you notice when Bill Gates
You were
talks,
worried I was going to go on and
when
on
Bill
about
Gates
that.
talks and he's doing this all the time with his arms up over his head like a freaking orangutan.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how much
You
that
look
is.
at you watching
I
yourself
know
on
I
the
am,
monitor.
because just for what it's worth, I'm actually annoying myself.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, let's get away from the orangutan arms. Now, I said Saul
And Bill
Kripke got
Gates.
it right.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
Kripkean dogmatism. If you know something is true, then evidence to the contrary is misleading and should be rejected.
That is disinformation and misinformation because my belief is that is wrong.
That's just fake news.
You don't
And so
need
is that.
You don't need facts anymore in this world,
Right,
apparently.
right. Apparently
So
not.
Watch out for that. Watch out for
Kripkean
people with
dogmatism.
these.
Yeah, when you're dogmatic because you know something is true, then any evidence to the contrary, we'll say it again, is not even weighed because clearly it's misleading. So it has to be just
Oh,
discounted.
100%. Mike, we have moved in the last, I swear, I'm not even saying what I'm talking
Go ahead,
about,
Ken.
but you all kind of know.
Yeah.
And this is just a general truth without expressing any views.
All right.
The world has moved into an era where science must be based on consensus. We don't do actual studies and get information and learn things. We poll scientists.
Right.
What do you think? Oh, well, the vast majority say this, therefore this must be true. Well, guess what? That led to thalidomide. That led to asbestos. That led to smoking is good for you.
That's
There's,
right.
And maybe also led to a
It
lot
led
of things
to
that were
DDT.
it led to a lot of things that were correct.
Right, but it
Right.
also led to things like Hitler invading Poland.
It takes-
thinking that was a good idea because consensus was, you know what? I think the Poles would
Well,
probably
or at
like us
least
to invade.
Yeah, and there's actually
You're Polish, so
there's
I
an
can say this.
there's an interesting angle there. It
Yeah.
is consensus people who seem to be going along also, rather than no, they're just too afraid to speak out.
Ah, right.
I mean, when you look at a country invading another country,
yeah.
and the population doesn't say anything, are they in
Are they
agreement,
complicit
or are
by-
they just
yeah.
staying quiet because they're scared?
Gosh,
right?
we have fascinating
And-
conversations.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I was just listening to podcast the other night, and they were talking about how in California there's a rule that will be passed that if you say something medically, again, this is fairly wide now, so
All right.
not to a specific topic.
Okay.
Don't worry.
No.
If you say something that goes against, let's say, what the CDC says or what the governor wants you to say, you will lose your medical license.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so can you imagine the doctor who goes, hey, you don't have to worry about dietary cholesterol. There's
Yeah.
no evidence. We're going to talk about this in another podcast, actually, right? But you'll lose your freaking license as a doctor, and your job is to critically think this is wrong, in my
All right,
opinion.
so back to perception. I concur with what you're saying. Emotional anchors change our perception. Do
Yes.
you know, I could never stand the name Anthony. Now, it's
Anthony.
hard with Michael C. Anthony, my other best friend.
Yeah.
That being his last name. I found that hard to deal with for a long time because when I was a little kid, there was a kid, Anthony, in the
Anthony.
neighborhood, and he was a fat little kid with buck teeth, and he was always going,
Did he annoy you? Did he
couldn't
annoy
stand
you?
him. So when I hear Anthony, I see a fat little smelly kid with big buck teeth over his lower lip. Of course, I've deleted it and erased it, so I'm fine now. And the most valuable coin in the world. Here's another thing. How perception. John McEwen in grade maybe 7. So I was 11. He came over to my place and he had this coin, this foreign coin.
And he said it's the most valuable
No, here's what
coin?
made it valuable.
Oh.
It was about an inch and a half in diameter. I don't know what it was. It had a naked woman on one side of it. But as part of a flag or something.
Right, okay.
This bare-breasted woman with, a robe around her toilet area and everything. So it was just bare-breasted woman on a coin. And he told me he carried this with him everywhere and he could look at it whenever he wanted. And he sold this as being such a vital part of his life that I got to have that coin. So I offered to trade him like Superman comics. No. So I started bringing out more and more stuff. Finally, Chris, the back of our apartment, I had a box of stuff. And there's my Give a Show projector and this, and there's some dinky toys. And I'll give you all of this for the coin. And he's, no. And I suddenly thought, what the F am I doing?
Yeah.
I just caught this
Your
perception of
perception had been-
value of having a naked woman in my pocket all the time. Well, as a little kid, right?
So
this was
weird.
very risque. But interesting. It put value on it. And what about, and we got to go to a commercial in a minute, but what about the attribution of goodness due to liking someone? You can tell I've done my homework on this.
You mean so if if you like someone,
Right.
you go, oh, he's a really nice guy.
A really
he's
good guy.
a good person.
Yeah, good person. And it
Yeah.
is entirely our perception of liking the person. We then look for evidence to affirm their
Confirmation
goodness.
bias.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah,
And
100%.
By nature, we then delete anything to the
That
contrary.
makes so much sense, Mike, because a lot of the times it is in that order. You form an opinion on someone not due to any evidence, but based upon unconscious rapport signals, right?
Oh,
and then you
brilliant.
go, oh, yeah, I really like that guy. He's really nice. He's a great guy. Oh, that's a wonderful lady.
Yeah, he's
we
exactly
love
the
her.
same
She's
as me.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You just have rapport from some interaction. You actually don't know anything about their goodness.
No,
or
and if you're in
badness.
strong rapport, the reason you like them unconsciously through the substrate is because
you
they seem
feel-
like you.
Yeah, and
we all like ourselves.
we always say that you are going to be in immediate rapport with anyone who makes you feel good about yourself in their presence.
Yes.
Right?
Now, remember the line, what the thinker thinks, the prover proves.
prover proves,
And that's
yeah.
what's happening with all of this. If we think a certain thing to be true or accurate, we then attempt to, and we'll look for information.
Hey, it's an
that
ego
will-
state. It's a parts therapy thing, right?
that will
Yeah, you
prove
have a
to be
thinker.
true. Yeah,
and
yeah.
inside you have a prover. Well, how do you know that to be true? Well, because... And then you
a
back
parts
it up.
thing, yeah.
And it's actually the same in sales and marketing, too. If you think about copywriting and stuff, people talk about the idea of speaking to the benefits of something, which appeals to an emotion. This will turn you into a really confident, amazing person. You'll realize it's easy to talk to people, and that'll make you popular, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's a benefit. That's not the feature. The feature is we will teach you the proven 3-step framework to
Right,
delivering a great presentation. That's a freaking feature. What will it
different
do
thing.
for you? The emotion is the benefit-driven emotion, right? So
Right.
when we have an emotion, and what is it that you always say about emotions? That in the moment when you're feeling an emotion, whether it be a good one or a bad one, it makes you
more suggestible.
more and stupider.
Yeah,
Stupider.
yeah.
We don't mean it that you become dumb because
No,
you're
no.
emotional, but in the moment, you
Any
do
strong
not
emotion will
use
make you stupid.
logic.
This is Kripkean material, human givens theory.
Yeah,
It's not us.
and copywriters have known this forever
Man,
because
I
if
wish
you
I'd
can
worn
get
pants today.
people, oh, nice.
You know,
if you can get people to have an emotional reaction,
Yeah.
they are likely to switch off for the time being their logic. Right?
Yes.
Or the logic will get magnetically sort of pulled in to justify
the thinker proving.
based on the
The
emotions.
prover
Exactly.
proving.
The thinker thinks emotion, the prover proves logic.
Now, I've just got to do a Jerry Kine cough attack here.
We're not going to edit this out.
Nope, we'll edit
Okay.
that out. Not okay. And let's cover these quick 2 points, and then we'll get right into the
Of course we
commercial
will.
message within the framework of these realities that we create. Now, again, we're not new aging it and saying that we're creating physical reality with our thoughts. And we make assumptions, though, about what is true, what is false, what is right, what is wrong, what is essential, what is inessential, what is real, and what is fake.
yeah.
And these are the a prioris that we bring to a discussion.
A priori, right?
And, yeah,
and that's a two. That's
beforehand.
That's
Yes.
a priori.
Yeah, that's right. So we bring certain ideas. We have foundations that we bring to discussion points. And those are going to color through our perceptual filters. Perceptual filters are beliefs and so on, what we think, what we believe, and so on, that we bring to a discussion. And
But
my brother-in-law
Mike,
said,
I
go
don't
into a
bring
discussion
any
with no
a priori.
And I said, so your a priori is that you don't have one. It was just devastating.
You're
and
very
beautiful.
good at
Thanks,
coming
buddy.
up with those examples.
5,000 years old. Okay, so we now have a special report, Chris.
So now we bring to you a very special paid commercial segment. Our friend Brado in Meaford, Ontario.
Yeah, how are you tonight? Thanks again. Well, it's your old pal Brado here and that. It's the one day before New Year's Eve, and I'm bringing you all up to speed on Meaford and that. So yesterday I was looking for something to do, and since there's only so many frickin' donuts you can eat and coffees you can drink, I headed out into the snow, and man, it was really snowing in the snowery, and I could see those two dicks on toast, Eddard and his ridiculous cousin Duder, clearing snow from their vehicle, which of course is Eddard's ride-em lawnmower that he uses at Tim Hortons drive-thru, and since he lost his license and that, and they'd already cleared in front of his pole barn, so I knew they were up to something once they got the mower dug out, and didn't want any part of it myself, so I started up the old pickup truck and drove past them, just giving them the finger and not even looking at them. Well, en route to Owen Sound, I started seeing these orange posters for a pre-New Year's Eve show at some barn or other, and there was a poster at the drive-thru at Tim Hortons too, and I ripped it down, and there was a QR code on it because the party is actually New Year's Eve rave, and they're going to have a ton of people and loud music and DJs and tons of booze for a low entry fee of $20, which was interesting for sure. And kind of illegal. And since there's no Mrs. Brado on the horizon, I figured I'd check it out and scan the shindig for some cool women too. Well, of course, the QR code wouldn't work on my stupid iPhone 4 because my iPhone 5 had fallen down the outhouse and I wasn't going down after the horsing. So I went back to my old one, which is a battery life of about 10 minutes if it's not too cold out, which it always is up here in the boulevard of frozen dreams. So I just drove home, which was a good thing because when I pulled into the driveway, I passed Eddard's pole barn. The door was open and there were stacking chairs and a stupid stage built out of packing cartons and that. It suddenly all made sense and the party was their stupid idea. And of course, only about 3 people will finally show up for the big party on New Year's Eve. And no doubt they'll all have greasy, stupid mullets and they'll all be Eddard's relatives, which means, of course, they'll all be related to that Dick Duder as well. So once I didn't fall into one of their dumbass schemes. So thanks again and Happy New Year and that. And I'm hoping 2023 will be better this stupid year, although my hopes aren't high. But I'll do my best, which is all you can really ask of anyone. So it's been your old pal Brado saying thanks once again. It's the State of Hypnosis up here in Meaford. Happy New Year and good night.
Okay, Mike, so how far does this go if perception is never reality?
Well, this is getting very ontological. What if we're just perceiving that perception is never reality? I mean, there's layer upon layer. This is when certain people start talking about quantum mechanics, incorrectly. But it's impossible to perceive everything. So what we recommend for all of us is question your preconceived ideas about people, places, food, concepts, everything. Be willing to question everything. And we all have VAK. We have visual, auditory, and kinesthetic processing. So use your other senses to enrich your experience of life. Now, I'm a highly auditory person. And I hear a piece of music. If it touches me emotionally, I remember it literally forever. And my wife taught me to start to see instead of hearing all the time. And I remember, because she's extremely visual, she's an amazing gardener. She won the best gardener in the greater Toronto area. I mean, incredible. Years ago. And in the yard, she brought in a catnip plant. And it had this tiny, tiny flower on it. I would never even have noticed it. But she had extended my perception now into the visual sense. And this thing was incredibly beautiful in its complexity and its tininess. So ask questions. What am I missing here in my perceptions? And what else do I notice?
Awesome.
And start to use perceptual positions. If you're always stuck in I, that's position number 1. That makes you into an egotist.
Yeah, I was thinking we should define. Let's define the perception. So they're the position 1 first, associated with all ego. I.
You're associated into yourself. You're feeling everything from your own side.
Everything is from your perspective, and if you're stuck there all the time, you will have a hard time building rapport because you can never put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Right, which is position 2, which is empathy, where we take on the other person's feelings, emotions, senses, and we're putting ourselves in their position, which is a very, very powerful way
to understand their feelings,
their position.
And again, keep in mind, you're definitely going to be doing mind reading when you step into second position because you're not actually them.
Right. And we'll start to open your model of the world more and expand it and enrich it. So it's I, second position then is you, and third position is they or them, and it is dissociated, so there's no emotion. So this is a great way for dealing with criticism. Someone's criticizing me really harshly, which hardly ever happens. But if it did, and it doesn't.
He looks at me.
It doesn't. But if someone criticizes me harshly, what I instantly have, what I've learned to do is I step into third position and view the entire conversation from the outside.
Right. So here, we'll use these little corks as examples.
Yes, and one of these
here's Mike, and here's me criticizing Mike.
Yes.
Well, maybe not me, but it could be somebody. Let's pretend it's me.
Yeah.
So then Mike would go,
step to the outside and look at the situation from the outside.
Here's
interaction between two people.
Here's that Dick Duder.
Yeah,
and he's trying to educate Brado on something. And so Brado steps off and goes,
let's worship the flag for a minute here. Yeah. In any case, you're stepping into the outside. And you're looking at the situation from the outside far enough back.
You strip away the emotion so you can be more honest about it. And that's when you realize that you owe a lot of people a big freaking apology. right?
Wow. Which takes us to our empowering question
All right.
for today.
So this has been a fun episode. So let's do the empowering question, which is for podcast 218, right? We're at 218?
We are.
All right, here we go. What are my own perceptions about people I know and the world I inhabit, and are my particular beliefs that create and stabilize my reality tunnel actually useful, or are they more like something you'd see up in Meaford, Ontario?
Brilliant. And I have a short MetaFIVE, which is one better than a metaphor. The Christmas decorations and the flying books.
Uh-oh.
When I hung out with Henry O'Hagan when I was a kid, so I was 10, I think he was probably just coming up to 9. We were great friends. We had always got this great stuff for Christmas, and we'd play board games and stuff, and then get into huge fights with each other, and then be friends again, and just yelling and screaming at each other, and parents getting involved. But he was a great friend. But one Christmas, my mom had decorated our apartment in a rather unusual way. She saw this, not online, because there was no online there, in a magazine or something. You get black tape, and you make panels in your windows, so it looks like little, you stick hockey tape on your windows. Then you get cans of spray snow, and you put it in the corners of all this, and it looks like you have wonderful Christmassy windows with snow. And then, of course, you got to wash it all off in the spring. You did that?
No, I know what you mean. Not the electrical tape part, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. Well, you never lived in a ground floor apartment for $135 a month. But I'm just telling you, we did. And so anyway, my mom did this, but she also got some red strips of crepe paper, and for some unknown reason hung them over the kitchen doorway into the dining room. So these things would gather a lot of static electricity. And I had a red plastic sword, and I noticed the electrostatic attraction between the sword and these hanging strips. I could attract them to the sword.
Yeah.
So Henry O'Hagan comes down. I said, "Hey, look at this, buddy." And I got the sword, I put it, and the things came up, touched the sword. He said, "That's amazing." I said, "It's the power of this sword." I said, "Look, I can move paper with it." And went to the other side, and they moved up. And I said, "Do you know what I do in class? I take this to school, and I make people's textbooks fly around the room." And he never got me to prove it. He just believed it.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to Brain Software. This has been episode 218. Just ridiculous fun. Go ahead and check out our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. If you're interested in hypnosis training, personal development training, you can join us either in the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. Foundations Live is coming up soon as well. You can look at the events page for that. Or if you're more interested in the personal development side of things, check out our products page, which is in the nav of our website, and you'll see our personal growth membership, which is an awesome place to get started and make your life more amazing. Thanks again.
Thank you, Sheila.
And
good night.
Good night.